welcome back to my channel. Obviously, I have a completely different hair color than the previous blonde that I was rocking. After a few weeks of that really irritating itch to change up my hair, I finally took the dive yesterday and decided to dye it a dark red. And as I was posting the pictures of my new hair on Instagram, I got a few questions asking me, hey, you know, your hair looks awesome. Did you do it yourself? Did you do it at home? If you did do it at home, what did you do? And that is exactly what I'm going to talk about in this video. So obviously, before I jump into all of that, I have to throw out the disclaimer that, you know, I'm not a professional. I don't do hair for a living. I'm sure you could probably get this done at a salon if you were feeling nervous, if you didn't want to do it yourself. Not only am I not a professional, but I also am somebody who does a ton of research before jumping into my next hair color. So if you've just stumbled across this video on your journey to wanting to turn your hair red, don't make this video the last video you watch. Read a lot, watch a ton of videos, and kind of gain this huge pool of knowledge on how to dye your hair. That being said, I actually had quite an easy time coloring my hair, a little bit easier than I actually thought it was gonna be, actually. You guys might remember from the video where I actually went blonde that it was a long process. When I went blonde, the entire process took about a month, and it was a lot of bleach and a lot of damage, and even though I did it the healthiest way I could have, once you bleach your hair, it'll never really quite be the same again. And it was getting to the point where I was touching up my roots, and I don't know, I just didn't want to do it anymore. I felt like, I didn't feel like I was destroying my hair, but I knew that I wasn't being very nice to my hair. The actual blonde maintenance is actually one of the things that made me want to change my hair color, and you're probably thinking like, the maintenance is what made you change to red, because red is one of the hardest maintained colors that you can get. And you're probably right. Doing red for me, it just ended up not being as harsh, and honestly, I just really like the color. I'm actually just gonna jump in and explain to you guys exactly what I did, because I know that that's probably why you're watching this video. What's up? It's Katie from the future. I just wanted to jump in and very quickly say that you are going to be seeing little tiny clips of the vlog channel over in the lower left-hand corner. If you are not subscribed to the vlog channel, you obviously do not have to be, but that is actually where I filmed the entire process taking place. So you're gonna see little tiny clips right over there where I actually show you what I was doing as I explain it through. So let's get back to the video. The research I had done for the past 2 weeks before actually dyeing my hair red basically said I had to do this in sort of 3 separate steps. First, I had to fill my hair with a darker color, because if I dyed it straight red, as if it was just bleach blonde, it would come out hot pink, and I was not a fan of wanting hot pink hair, so I didn't want that. I wanted it to be darker first and then dye red over it. So that's the second step. I would have to dye my hair red on top of that. And the third step is really making sure that I used a protein filler to make sure the color was even. I'm gonna talk a little bit about protein fillers first, because that's kind of one of the more important things after bleaching your hair and wanting to go darker. You need to include a protein filler. So I read many horror stories of trying to go darker after previously bleaching your hair, mainly because when you bleach your hair, obviously you are lifting up all of these different color pigments from your hair and they're just gone. They're poof. You can't get them back. Everyone's hair is comprised of blue and red and yellow pigments, and when you lift up all of those pigments, pretty much all of the blue is gone, most of the red is gone, and all that remains are really these yellow pigments. That's what gives you your blonde hair. So when you try to go darker with your bleach blonde hair, sometimes the colors don't really sit quite right. If you go straight to dark brown after having bleach blonde hair, it can almost look kind of greenish sometimes, because there's not a lot of blue and red pigments in your hair anymore, so it just kind of sits funny. I read a lot, and it sounds like the way to prevent that is to use a protein filler. Protein fillers come in all different shapes, sizes, and colors, kind of like human beings, and you can pick them up at your local Sally's. You can also get them online. They're pretty easy to find. Protein fillers work to kind of seal in your hair color so it'll last a lot longer, and it'll also make it so your hair color goes on evenly, especially if you have previously bleached hair like I did. Sometimes it can look kind of patchy. It can look like lighter in some spots and darker in some spots, and it's just kind of a mess. Protein fillers kind of help prevent that a little bit. So what I ended up getting was this colorful protein filler from Sally's Beauty Supply. There's still a little bit left in here, and it looks like blood. It is like blood red. I decided to get the red one because I figured, you know what, I'm already going red, so I might as well. If you're wanting to go dark brown from blonde, red would probably work for you as well because it will kind of prevent any green hues from emerging in the hair dye on your head. Because again, we're trying to replace pigments that are lost from the bleaching process. So I picked out red. So the directions say on this little tiny bottle to basically mix half of the entire bottle with your ready to be used hair dye and developer. So the first thing I had to do with all of this is mix up my first batch of hair dye, and I used the Clairol Soy 4-Plex Cream Demi-Permanent Hair Dye in 7N, which is a medium neutral blonde. I just mixed up this color with a 1:1 ratio with a 10 volume developer, which is, I believe, only 3% peroxide. Once I had a bowl full of hair dye, I put in half of this bottle of the red protein filler. I mixed up the protein filler with the hair dye and it turned it to like this orange goo. And I painted that all over my head, except I didn't paint it on 3 strands of blonde because at this point I was nervous. I thought I would miss my blonde, so I kept a few streaks in there, which is why I have like chunks of blonde that are just kind of peeking out. I let that sit in my hair for about 20 minutes and I rinsed it out. I didn't shampoo it, I just rinsed it under like lukewarm water, and then I let it dry. The result was kind of nasty. It was kind of a gross color. Even when I used the red protein filler, it just looked kind of sad. After my hair was completely dry, I let it air dry for most of the time, and then I went in and like blow dried it to make sure it was super dry. I went in and I used the red hair dye. The red I used was the Wella Demi-Permanent Hair Color in 6RV Fiery Red. I used this entire tube as well, and I used this with a 1:2 ratio with the 10 volume developer. So I used this entire tube but doubled the concoction with developer. After mixing up the red hair dye and the 10 volume developer, I threw in almost the rest of this protein filler with the hair dye. The result was super watery. It was very liquidy, which was something I wasn't really expecting. So there's that, I guess. Then I just painted that color on top of the kind of icky brown color that I was rocking for the past 20 minutes. I painted my whole head, and again, I left those blonde streaks. They were kind of like balled up on little tiny balls on my head, and I just kind of pinned them there so they wouldn't move. And I let that sit in my hair for, again, 20 minutes. Then I rinsed it out and I shampooed it, and I used the Ion, I don't remember what it's called. It's like the Reconstructor. You can get the little packets and it's like a really super deep conditioner. I used that in the shower, and I got out and it dried, and I styled it, and that's the result. It was actually super easy to achieve. I thought it would be a lot more difficult, but this color was actually relatively easy to achieve, more so than I thought it would be. I have no idea how long I'm going to keep this color, and I'm not quite sure how I will be maintaining it quite yet because I haven't shampooed my hair since I dyed it, so I don't know how the staying power is going to be on this, but I will be sure to keep you updated. And I'm pretty sure I addressed almost everything I did in this video. So if you do have any questions whatsoever, make sure to leave a comment down below or catch me on Instagram or Twitter, and I can totally help you out trying to get your perfect red. When I was trying to go blonde, at least I had the idea of how blonde I wanted it to be and how much I had to lighten it before I could start toning it and all that jazz. But with red, it's kind of more difficult, and any brown color is kind of more difficult as well, because it's kind of like, which level do I want to be? How much red do I want? And it's a little bit more difficult. This is what personally worked for me and how I achieved this color. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you guys will be able to achieve this color as well if this is what you're going for. And again, if you have any questions whatsoever, catch me on Instagram or Twitter. The links are always in the description bar below, or leave a comment and I will hopefully, I don't imagine why I wouldn't be able to respond. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and stay tuned for more. Bye!